Millionaire found his driver's niece crying at 1:47 a.m., what she whispered shattered him. Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's return to our main character. The night was quiet in that strange way only late hours can be, when even the wind seems to hold its breath. Just a few minutes before 2 a.m., Ethan Cole pulled into the stone driveway of his estate, the headlights sweeping across trimmed hedges and the familiar shadow of the garage. But something felt off. There was a shape, small, curled, unmoving, on the bottom step leading to the side entrance. As he stepped out of his car, the cool night air brushed his face, carrying with it a sense of urgency he couldn't quite explain. That's when he recognized her. Maya Thompson. Rob's niece. The girl who always greeted him with a shy smile, who worked double shifts and still apologized for being tired. Now she sat alone, her knees pulled tight to her chest, shoulders trembling as if each breath cost her strength she barely had left. Ethan slowed his steps, careful not to startle her. The porch light cast a soft glow on her tear-streaked cheeks, catching the way she pressed her palms together like she was holding herself in place. Maya. His voice came out low, steady, the way he spoke to frightened animals or storm-shaken kids. It's 1:47 a.m. What are you doing out here? She didn't look up at first. He saw the tiny shiver that ran through her arms, saw the moments she tried to swallow her sobs but couldn't. When she finally raised her face, something inside him tightened. Her eyes, usually bright, were red, swollen, defeated. I'm sorry, she whispered, her voice thin as paper. I didn't mean to be here. I just didn't know where else. The words trailed off, broken by a quiet gasp she tried to hide. Ethan knelt slightly, enough to meet her eye level without crowding her. Every instinct in him went still, listening. Maya, talk to me. What happened? Her fingers clutched something, a delicate silver necklace, snapped clean in the middle, the charm hanging by a thread of metal. She looked at the broken piece like it held the whole explanation. Then, in a breath barely louder than the rustling leaves, she whispered the sentence that made his chest drop and his world tilt, a sentence he would remember long after this night was over. I was scared, and I couldn't go home. She didn't say anything else, but she didn't need to. The fear in her voice filled in all the empty spaces. Ethan exhaled slowly, steadying himself as warmth, protectiveness, and anger at whatever hurt her folded into one sharp instinct. He offered his hand, not pushing, not demanding, just there. You're safe now, Maya, he said softly. You came to the right place. And when she finally placed her trembling hand into his, the night seemed to shift, as if this moment, this fragile, broken moment, was the beginning of something neither of them had seen coming. For a moment, Ethan simply held her hand, letting her breathe, letting the night settle around them. The porch light flickered once in the quiet, and he could feel how cold her fingers were, how they curled slightly like she was afraid he might disappear if she loosened her grip. Come inside, he said gently. You should warm up. Maya hesitated only a second before nodding. She stood slowly, her thin sweater clinging to her arms as if it offered less warmth than the night air. When they stepped into the kitchen, the soft glow from the under-cabinet lights made the room feel calmer, safer. Ethan moved with practiced ease, opening a cabinet and taking out a mug with a faint chip on the rim. Hot chocolate, he asked. It helps on difficult nights. Maya's voice was barely audible. Thank you. While the milk warmed, Ethan glanced at her across the counter. She sat on the edge of a stool, her shoulders still hunched, her eyes fixed on the broken necklace she held in her palm. She rubbed her thumb gently over the tiny charm, as if trying to make sense of what had happened simply by holding it. That necklace, Ethan said softly, is it special? Her lips pressed together for a moment before she nodded. It was a birthday gift from my mom, she whispered. She saved for months. She wanted me to have something nice. She blinked quickly, keeping tears at bay. It is the only thing I have left from her. Ethan felt something shift in his chest, a quiet ache. I can get it fixed, he said. There are people who can repair almost anything. Maya shook her head lightly. It is not just the necklace. Tonight everything felt too heavy. She paused, choosing her words carefully, as if each one might crack open something she was trying to hold together. I tried going home earlier, but Uncle Rob was still working his late shift. And I did not want to wait alone. So I came here because this place felt safer than anywhere else. The honesty in her voice was small but powerful. Ethan set the mug in front of her, watching the steam curl upward. You did the right thing, he said. You do not have to handle nights like this alone. Maya wrapped her hands around the mug, savoring the warmth. I did not want to bother you, she murmured. You are busy. Important. People look up to you. A faint, almost ironic smile touched Ethan's lips. Being important does not mean much if I cannot show up for the people who matter. Her eyes lifted slowly, surprised by the softness in his tone. For the first time that night, he saw a flicker of light in them. Still fragile, but present. Ethan, she said quietly, I really did not mean to fall apart on your steps. He shook his head. Everyone falls apart sometimes. The important part is having somewhere to land. Maya breathed in, steadying herself, then spoke even more softly than before. I was scared of what might happen if I stayed where I was. I just needed a place where I could breathe. Ethan pulled a chair closer, not too near, not crowding her, just close enough that she would feel someone was there if she reached out again. Then breathe here, he said. For as long as you need. She looked at him with a mixture of relief and exhaustion, the kind that comes from carrying too much for too long. And as the kitchen settled into a peaceful silence, it became clear to both of them that this night had drawn a quiet line between before and after, and neither one could pretend they did not feel it. The kitchen had grown warmer, as if the room itself was trying to soften the edges of the night for her. Maya's hand stayed wrapped around the mug, as if she needed the heat to ground herself. Ethan watched her carefully, not with pressure, but with the quiet patience of someone who understood that fragile moments needed space. After a few minutes, she let out a slow breath and rested the broken necklace on the counter, the tiny charm catching the light. Do you ever have nights that feel too big? She asked softly, her voice barely louder than a whisper. Ethan considered the question. More than I want to admit, he said. Being successful does not stop life from being heavy. Maya's eyes flickered with something like understanding. Sometimes I think I should be stronger, she murmured. Like things should not get to me so easily. Strength is not about pretending everything is fine, Ethan replied. Sometimes strength is choosing where to go when the world feels overwhelming. She lowered her gaze again, tracing the shape of the charm with her fingertip. My Uncle Rob always says I wear my heart on my sleeve. Maybe that is why nights like this, they hit harder. Ethan remembered Rob's gentle nature, the way the man always spoke about his niece with pride. Your uncle cares about you deeply, he said. He would want you to be somewhere safe. Maya nodded. He has done so much for me. After my mom passed, he took me in even when he could barely afford rent. I promised myself I would not be a burden, so I work as much as I can. But tonight, her voice trembled, but she steadied it. Tonight I just needed somewhere that did not feel scary. The honesty settled between them like a truth finally given permission to exist. Ethan pulled in a slow breath. Maya, needing safety does not make you a burden. It makes you human. For the first time since he had found her, her shoulders eased slightly. She took a sip of the chocolate, letting its warmth seep into her. Thank you, she whispered. For not asking too many questions. For not pushing. You deserve gentleness, Ethan said quietly. More than you know. She blinked, surprised by the certainty in his tone. Then her fingertips brushed the broken necklace again. I wish I could fix this, she said softly. It feels like everything else in my life. Hanging on by a thread. Ethan reached out slowly, giving her enough time to pull away if she wanted. When she did not, he gently picked up the necklace. This can be repaired, he said. Things that are broken can be restored with the right care. Maya swallowed. Do you really think so? I know so. His voice was steady, grounded. She watched him for a long moment, her eyes searching his face as if she needed to see whether his kindness was real. Whatever she found there seemed to calm her, because her next breath came easier. Outside, a small gust of wind brushed against the windows, carrying the faint rustle of leaves. Inside, the air felt different, warmer, as if some unseen barrier had softened. I am sorry, Maya murmured. It must be strange for you, having me show up like this. Ethan shook his head. Maya, you came here because you needed safety. There is nothing strange about that. Her voice dropped to a fragile whisper. I just did not want to be alone. You are not alone, Ethan answered, his tone gentle but certain. And in the soft hum of the quiet kitchen, with the necklace resting safely between them and the weight of the night slowly easing, something subtle but significant shifted, like the beginning of a bond neither of them had expected. The kitchen clock ticked softly, marking the quiet stretch of minutes that followed. Maya had stopped trembling, but her eyes carried the kind of exhaustion that lived deeper than lack of sleep. Ethan noticed the way she kept her hands wrapped around the warm mug even after the drink was gone, as if letting go might bring the cold rushing back. You should rest, he said gently. There is a guest room down the hall. It is comfortable and it is close, so you will not feel alone. Maya looked uncertain, her fingers tightening around the empty mug. I do not want to intrude, she whispered. This is your home, and I already feel like I am taking up too much space. Ethan shook his head softly. Maya, you walked here in the middle of the night because you needed somewhere safe. That is not taking up space. That is surviving. Her eyes lowered, as if she was unsure she deserved even that. He stood and offered his hand again, the same warm gesture that had calmed her outside. After a moment of hesitation, she placed her hand in his. Her palm was small, cool, threaded with traces of the fear she had been carrying for far too long. Ethan walked her through the hallway, the soft lighting making the shadows less intimidating. He pushed open a door to a quiet guest room with a neatly made bed, a folded blanket at the foot, and a bedside lamp casting a gentle glow. You can stay here for the night, he said. No expectations, no explanations. Just rest. Maya stepped inside, her eyes moving slowly over the room as if she had not been somewhere peaceful in a long time. It is beautiful, she murmured. Thank you, Ethan. He lingered by the door, sensing there was more in her silence than she was ready to say. If you need anything, he added, I will be awake for a while. She nodded, then tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, her voice still soft. I did not tell my uncle I left home. He will worry. I will call him first thing in the morning, Ethan promised. I will let him know you are safe. He trusts you, and he will understand. Her shoulders eased a little. He always told me I could come to him, she said. But sometimes I feel like I have to handle everything myself. You do not, Ethan replied. You are allowed to lean on people. Maya looked at him then, really looked, and he could see the mixture of relief and disbelief in her eyes. It has been a long time since someone said that to me, she whispered. Ethan offered her a small, reassuring smile. Get some rest. You deserve it. She stepped closer, not touching him, but close enough that he felt the quiet emotion in the space between them. Good night, Ethan, she said. Good night, Maya. When he gently closed the door behind her, he stayed in the hallway for a moment, listening to the soft sounds of her settling in. Something about the night felt different now, as if the house itself had shifted to hold the weight of her presence. As Ethan walked back toward the kitchen, he glanced at the broken necklace he had left on the counter. The charm caught the light again, a small glimmer of something fragile but hopeful. He picked it up carefully, turning it between his fingers. "This can be fixed," he murmured to himself. But he was no longer thinking just about the necklace. And in that quiet moment, he understood that whatever had brought Maya to his doorstep at such a late hour was only the beginning of something he had not expected to feel. The night settled quietly over the house, the kind of stillness that made every soft sound feel louder. Ethan checked on the alarm system, turned off the last of the downstairs lights, and paused once more outside the guest room door. He did not knock, did not want to disturb her, but he found himself listening for any hint that she might be awake. Everything was silent. Satisfied she was resting, he finally headed to his study. He placed the broken necklace gently on his desk, next to a small lamp that cast a warm glow over the silver chain. The charm shimmered faintly, and he found himself tracing the break with his thumb. It was such a delicate piece, something given with love, something that should never have been damaged. He exhaled slowly, leaning back in his chair. He had seen worn-out employees, overwhelmed clients, overworked assistants. But Maya's fear had been different. It had been small and quiet, the kind that grows only when someone has tried to be strong for too long. He stayed at his desk longer than he intended, lost in thought, until fatigue finally urged him to turn in for the night. Morning came gently through the curtains, bathing the house in soft, golden light. Ethan woke earlier than usual, drawn by an uneasy pull in his chest. As he stepped into the hallway, he noticed the guest room door slightly open. He approached quietly, unsure if she was still asleep. But when he looked inside, he saw Maya sitting upright on the edge of the bed, her hands clasped together, her eyes fixed on the window as though unsure how to greet the morning. She looked startled when she saw him in the doorway. "I am sorry," she said quickly. "I did not mean to leave the door open. I woke up early and I was just thinking." Ethan offered a reassuring smile. "You do not have to apologize for anything." Maya glanced down at her hands. "I did not sleep much," she admitted. "But I think that is because my mind is still trying to catch up with last night." "Understandable," Ethan said softly. "Nights like that do not fade quickly." She nodded, her expression thoughtful and faintly embarrassed. "Thank you for letting me stay here," she said. "I know you did not have to." "I was glad you came," Ethan replied. "I was worried when I saw you outside." A hint of color touched her cheeks, not from embarrassment but from the weight of gratitude she did not know how to express. "I felt safe here," she murmured. "More than I expected." Ethan stepped back slightly to give her space. "I made breakfast," he said. "If you are hungry." The word hungry made her pause. She hesitated before admitting quietly, "I have not eaten since yesterday afternoon." "Then breakfast is overdue," Ethan said with a small, warm smile. She followed him to the kitchen, the soft morning light making the space feel gentler than the night before. He had made scrambled eggs, toast, and a bowl of fresh berries. Nothing extravagant, but comforting. Maya sat at the counter, watching him with a look that was equal parts gratitude and disbelief. "No one has made me breakfast in a long time," she said softly. "Well," Ethan said, placing a plate in front of her, "there is a first time for everything." She took a small bite, then another, and he saw her shoulders relax, the tension slowly melting away. After a few minutes of quiet eating, she looked at him with careful eyes. "Will you really call my uncle?" "Yes," Ethan said. "I want him to know you are safe." Maya let out a slow breath of relief. "He worries easily. He always tries to be strong for me." "You two have been through a lot," Ethan said. She nodded. "We have held each other together for years." The fragile truth in her voice made Ethan more certain than ever that last night had been a turning point. Not just for her, but for him. And as the morning sun warmed the kitchen, he realized he did not want this fragile sense of trust between them to end when she walked out the door. Breakfast lingered between them longer than either expected, not because of the food, but because neither seemed ready for the moment to end. Maya ate slowly, as if each quiet second helped her find her footing again. Ethan pretended to rinse a pan just to give her time, though he kept glancing over to make sure she was holding up. When her plate was almost empty, he reached for his phone. "I will call your uncle now," he said gently. "He should know where you are." Maya set her fork down, her expression tightening with a complicated mix of worry and relief. "He is probably panicking," she murmured. "He always does when he cannot reach me." Ethan stepped a few feet away to give her space but still close enough for her to hear the calm in his voice. The call rang only once before Rob answered, breathless and anxious. Ethan reassured him quickly, telling him Maya was safe, that she had felt overwhelmed and come to the house for comfort. When he hung up, Maya exhaled softly, her shoulders easing. "Was he upset?" she asked. Ethan shook his head. He was relieved. Deeply relieved. Her eyes softened. "He has taken care of me since I was 16. Sometimes I forget he needs reassurance too." Ethan sat across from her, leaning forward slightly. "He said he will come by later this morning." Maya nodded, her fingers brushing the edge of the countertop. "I should probably go home with him when he gets here," she said, though her voice lacked conviction. "I mean, I do not want to overstay." Ethan could hear the underlying thought she did not want to say aloud. She was afraid of being a burden again. "You are not overstaying," he said softly. "Last night was frightening for you. It is normal to need time to settle." Maya looked down at her hands, twisting the edge of her sleeve. "I did not expect to feel so safe here," she admitted. "It felt like I could finally breathe." Ethan's gaze warmed. "You can breathe here as long as you need." She met his eyes, and for a moment the kitchen felt suspended in something gentle, something unspoken. But Maya broke the connection first, clearing her throat. "I should change before my uncle arrives," she said quietly. "These clothes still smell like outside." "Of course," Ethan said. "I will find you something comfortable for now." He returned a minute later with a soft gray sweater and a pair of lounge pants. Maya accepted them with both hands, her gratitude quiet but deep. "You did not have to, I know," Ethan interrupted softly. "But I wanted to." She went to change, and Ethan waited in the hallway. When she stepped out again, dressed in his oversized sweater, she looked smaller somehow, but more at ease. She tucked a lock of hair behind her ear. "It is warm," she said. "Thank you." Ethan nodded, noticing how the sleeves fell past her wrists. "It suits you," he said before he could stop himself. Her cheeks lifted in the faintest shy smile. A knock at the front door broke the moment. Maya stiffened, instinctively stepping closer to Ethan. Not hiding exactly, but seeking reassurance. "It is my uncle," she whispered. Ethan opened the door to see Rob standing there, breath uneven, worry etched across his face. The moment he saw Maya, relief washed over him so strongly his knees almost seemed to soften. "Maya," he breathed. "You scared me." She moved to him, folding into his arms, and he held her with all the gentleness of someone who had been terrified of the alternative. Ethan stepped back, giving them the space they deserved. But even from a distance, he saw the way Maya glanced at him over her uncle's shoulder, a silent message in her eyes. Gratitude. Trust. And something else beginning to take shape. Something that neither of them fully understood yet, but both of them felt lingering softly in the morning air. Rob kept one arm around Maya as they stepped inside, his relief still palpable in the way he held her close. She leaned into him, but her eyes drifted toward Ethan again and again, as if checking that the safety she had felt through the night had not disappeared now that morning had come. Rob noticed the direction of her gaze and gave Ethan a grateful nod. "Thank you, sir," he said quietly. I do not know what would have happened if she had been out there alone. Ethan shook his head gently. She came here because she needed comfort, Rob. I am just glad she trusted this place enough to show up. Maya looked down at her hands, the sleeves of Ethan's sweater slightly covering her fingers. I did not mean to worry you. She whispered to her uncle. I just needed somewhere that felt steady. Rob squeezed her shoulder, his expression softening. You are allowed to need that, sweetheart. There was a warmth in the air then, a recognition that the night had bound them all in an unexpected way. Rob turned to Ethan again. If there is anything I can ever do, Ethan lifted his hand lightly. Just take care of her. That is all. Maya's breath caught almost imperceptibly at the quiet sincerity in his voice. After a moment, Rob cleared his throat. We should get going. I do not want her missing too much rest before her afternoon shift. Maya hesitated. Actually, I do not think I can go to work today, she murmured. I feel shaky. Rob immediately nodded. Then you are staying home. No question about it. Ethan looked at her gently. You should take the day to recover. It is perfectly all right. She lifted her gaze to him, visibly relieved that he did not expect her to bounce back immediately. Thank you, she said softly. Rob placed a hand on her back, guiding her toward the door, but Maya paused. She turned halfway, her eyes finding Ethan with a pull she did not attempt to hide. Can I come back later? She asked in a careful voice, almost as if she feared the answer. The question hung in the air with surprising weight. Ethan felt it, felt the quiet significance of her asking. Of course, he said. Whenever you need to. Rob watched their exchange with a thoughtful expression, but he said nothing, simply guiding Maya forward again. As they stepped onto the porch, Ethan called out gently. Maya. She turned, her hair catching the light, her expression open and fragile. He held out the broken necklace she had left on the counter. Do not forget this, he said. She walked back a few steps and took it from him, her fingertips brushing his palm. I did not forget, she admitted softly. I just thought it might be safer with you for now. Something warm and unexpected moved through him. I will take care of it, he said. I promise. She held his gaze a second longer, as if letting the promise sink into her chest, then gave a small nod before returning to her uncle's side. Ethan watched them walk down the driveway until they reached Rob's car. Maya paused before getting in, glancing over her shoulder one last time. That single look carried gratitude, trust, and an unspoken thread that connected them across the quiet morning air. When she finally got into the car, Ethan remained on the porch a moment longer, the necklace resting in his hand. He felt the faint imprint of her touch still lingering on his skin, and he knew with a clarity that surprised him that whatever had begun last night had not ended with the sunrise. It was only beginning. The house felt strangely quiet after Maya left, as if some part of her softness had lingered in the air and everything was waiting for her return. Ethan carried the broken necklace to his desk again, laying it gently in the same pool of warm lamplight as the night before. He studied the delicate charm, tracing the thin silver edges, imagining how carefully her mother must have saved to buy it. The weight of that sentiment settled into him, deeper than he expected. He made a decision without hesitation. After a quick call, he arranged for a trusted jeweler to stop by later that day. Not just to repair the necklace, but to restore every detail with precision and care. By late morning, he found himself checking the driveway more often than needed, as if he expected Maya to appear just because he hoped she would. When he caught himself pacing near the front windows, he forced a quiet breath and returned to his work. Hours passed, but his focus kept drifting. Every time he saw the sweater she had worn folded neatly on the back of a chair, something in his chest tightened with a mixture of concern and a softness he could not quite name. It was early afternoon when Rob's car finally pulled into the driveway again. Ethan stepped outside just as Maya opened the passenger door. She looked better, but only slightly. Less shaken, but still delicate around the edges, like someone who was holding herself together while still sorting through the night before. "Hi," she said quietly as she stepped out. "I hope this is still okay." "It is more than okay," Ethan said, unable to hide the relief in his voice. "I am glad you are here." Rob approached with a grateful but tired expression. "Sir, thank you again. I thought it would be good for her to spend a little time somewhere peaceful. Our place is cramped." Maya squeezed her uncle's arm gently. "I will be all right, Uncle Rob. I just need a calm afternoon." Rob nodded and looked at Ethan. "If you need anything, call me. I will be running errands nearby." After he drove off, a soft quiet settled between Ethan and Maya. She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, her cheeks faintly colored. "I hope I am not interrupting your day," she said. "You probably have 1,000 things to do." "You are not interrupting anything," Ethan replied. "You matter more right now." Her eyes lifted slowly, touched by the sincerity in his tone. She stepped inside with him, and the house seemed to warm at her presence. She noticed the empty mug from the previous night still sitting on the counter. "You did not put it away?" she asked softly. "Not yet," he said. "It reminded me you were coming back." Something shifted gently in her expression, like a small flame catching light. She followed him to his study, where he picked up the necklace from the desk. "I wanted to show you," he said gently. "I found a jeweler who can repair this today. Completely. It will look just like it did when your mother gave it to you." Maya's breath caught, her hand lifting to her chest. "You did that, for me?" "Yes," he said simply. "You deserve to have something whole." Her eyes shimmered with emotion she did not attempt to hide. "No one has done something like this for me in a long time," she whispered. Ethan stepped closer, still giving her space, but enough for his presence to steady her. "You deserve care, Maya," he said, his voice warm and steady. "You deserve to feel safe. And you deserve to have people look out for you." She looked up at him then, her expression soft but full, as if the fragile pieces of last night were beginning to settle into something steadier. "Thank you, Ethan," she whispered. "For everything." And in that quiet moment, something gentle but unmistakable passed between them, a connection that had grown from fear and comfort into something neither of them expected, yet both of them felt with profound clarity. The afternoon unfolded with a quiet steadiness, the kind that gently settled into the corners of the house. Ethan walked Maya to the living room, where sunlight spilled across the floor in soft stripes. She moved slowly, as if relearning how to exist in a space that did not demand strength from her every second. For a moment she stood near the window, looking out at the neatly kept garden, her expression thoughtful and still fragile. "It is peaceful here," she murmured. "It feels like the world stops moving so fast." Ethan stood beside her, not too close, keeping the careful distance she seemed to need. "You are allowed to slow down," he said. "Not everything has to be endured in silence." She turned her head slightly, studying him with an expression that carried gratitude and something warmer growing beneath it. "You say things like you really believe them," she whispered. "I do," Ethan replied. "And I want you to believe them too." Before she could answer, the doorbell chimed. The jeweler had arrived exactly on time. Ethan excused himself and returned a few minutes later with the necklace in his hand. It gleamed as if it had never been broken, the silver chain shining softly in the light. Maya gasped the moment she saw it, her hand lifting to her mouth. "It looks new," she breathed. "Almost identical to how it was on my birthday." Ethan stepped closer and placed the necklace gently in her hands. "It is stronger now," he said. "They reinforce the clasp so it will not break easily again." Her eyes filled with emotion as she held the restored piece. "I cannot believe you did this," she whispered. "You really fixed it." Ethan's voice softened. "I did not just want to repair it. I wanted you to have something whole again." She looked at him for a long moment, and something in her face opened in a way he had not seen before. It was trust, real trust, blooming gently like something finally given permission to grow. "Would you help me put it on?" she asked, her voice quiet but steady. Ethan nodded. She turned around, lifting her hair away from her neck. His hands were careful as he fastened the clasp, making sure the chain rested gently against her skin. When she turned back to face him, the charm settled perfectly at her collarbone, catching the sunlight as if it belonged there. "It is perfect," she said softly. "Thank you, Ethan. For seeing me when I felt invisible." Something in him responded before he could stop it. "You have never been invisible," he said. "Not for a moment." Maya's breath trembled slightly, not with fear this time, but with the feeling of being understood. She stepped a little closer, the air between them warm and full. "Last night," she whispered, "I felt like I was falling apart." "You were not falling apart," Ethan said gently. "You were carrying too much alone. And you do not have to anymore." Her eyes shimmered, and she reached out, her fingers brushing lightly against his hand. It was a small gesture, but it held everything she could not yet put into words. "You have given me something I did not realize I needed," she said. "A place where I feel safe." Ethan closed his hand around hers, slow and careful. "You can have that for as long as you want." The house grew quiet again, but not with emptiness. It was a different kind of silence now, one filled with connection, with the gentle beginning of something that felt steady and healing. And as the necklace glowed softly against her skin, Maya leaned into the moment with a fragile courage, knowing she was finally somewhere she did not have to be afraid.